everybody. Hi, I'm Francesca. This is Critical Babe Theory, and this is the journalist and author, EJ Dickson, author of, I love this bold, One Bad Mother.
Thank you.
You're on a press tour junket.
Some would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, some would say that. Doing podcasts and interviews and such.
Great book.
Thank you so much.
I felt so, it just makes like the visual would be like somebody bound by 1,000 ropes from all directions, unable to escape to please anyone. That is like the constraint of the American mother.
That is I think that's a pretty good summary.
Like, who's successful? Do you know what I mean? Like, who could we actually say is a good mother? I guess I'm speaking like as not a fictional one, like a public, like a real person. Do you know what I mean?
Who's actually like a really good mother?
What is the American consensus, pop culture consensus around who is a good mother?
Well, I think the American pop cultural consensus is for a good mother is like pretty straightforward. It's a good mother is white and Christian and middle class.
But is there actually a specific one anywhere who fulfills all the requirements?
No, I mean, that's kind of the argument that the book is making, is that the label of the bad mother is so expansive it can basically apply to virtually any mother, right? Like, you can apply to a mother who is too permissive, or it can apply to a mother who is not permissive enough.
Yeah.
Or a mother who, is too attractive or doesn't take care of herself. It can literally apply to any woman regardless of their behavior.
You know what that makes me think about? I remember I was at this is when I was still married, and I was living upstate at the time because I moved upstate when I was like 8 months pregnant with my first child. And this was like the pandemic when everything was so... You remember like the really depressing social gatherings in the pandemic, like a year and a half in?
Yeah, like the Zoom code words sessions.
Yeah, I mean, this was like in person, but somehow...
with the masks.
Yeah, it just like had the quality of a depressing Zoom group meeting. It's just everything about it. Maybe I just didn't like the people. I mean, to be honest, maybe that's the issue. But I remember there was this like woman at this party who was like hot. Mm-hmm. She was like a mom, but she like had done her hair and her bosom was a little elevated. And I just remember thinking like, what is she doing? And then I talked to this friend of mine who's a guy who's married and has kids. And I was like, this hot mom, and he was like, I kind of like think of he's like, well, I just dyed my hair blonde. He's like, I kind of think of myself as the hot mom. And it like blew open
what
my
he
mind.
Said?
Yeah, because I was just like, oh, right. Like, he wants to be the hot mom in the room. And what I identified as like being something distasteful, which is like trying to be attractive while having kids or trying to have an identity different than just having kids, I like poo-pooed, which was it sort of like, what is it, the Ebenezer Scrooge? I was sort of seeing like the ghost of futures past, because like soon I would no longer be like a married mom who was like trying to be cute at the social function. Like, what is it, like pride cometh before the fall? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of what the whole MILF chapter is about.
Yeah, totally.
I would say is like basically the hotness trap.
Totally.
That comes with motherhood. Like, mothers have typically, like, conventionally and historically been viewed as completely sexless beings, and
which doesn't make sense because then they have to get impregnated more. So if you're totally sexless, how do you welcome more impregnation?
Yeah, but it's kind of like the Madonna whore dichotomy.
Yeah.
And but the MILF construct kind of blew that open. And I was doing a show at Littlefield about this yesterday. Mm-hmm. Like, at the time, people found it really empowering. Like, I don't know if you remember sort of like the advent of the term MILF, like when it came up in the pop cultural vernacular.
I didn't watch that movie.
American Pie?
Yeah, I was too counter. I just couldn't do anything that mainstream. I was like too counterculture. I was like I'm from San Francisco. Do you know what I mean? Like,
is it illegal to watch American Pie in San Francisco?
It's just so, I couldn't hang. I just couldn't hang. I was a weirdo. I was like doing contact improv jams and like Cuban salsa as a teenager.
I would say it was like pretty formative to me, actually.
Okay, tell me about it.
In retrospect. But like sort of, back to the MILF, when the MILF construct kind of was created, there were all these like think pieces. There was one in New York Magazine, actually, at my employer, where they interview all these moms who are like, this is so cool. Like, I finally feel seen. Like, I'm going to go out and dress really slutty and bang like 10 men at once. Like, they loved it. People loved it.
Okay.
Because it was just so refreshing at the time. And I think that as the trope has sort of progressed and become more integrated in like mainstream pop culture, like obviously, aided by porn.
Yeah.
Like, people have kind of realized how constrictive it really is.
Yeah. There's an amazing quote in your book that you just take from a friend of yours who says, like, well, of course, why wouldn't somebody want, like, a mom who did all the mom things for them that they could also have sex with?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I forget what was the actual quote. It was like, I think all men want a mommy who will like serve them, but also like blow them.
Yeah, fillet them and provide sexual services with no ask in return at any moment.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think he's absolutely right.
I know, and then I completely agree, and like I get it. Like even me, I'm like, yeah, would I let's take out like heterosexuality and not heterosexuality, but like would I theoretically want someone who like took care of my every needs? Because I was trying to think of it through the lens of like, okay, clearly some people have like daddy issues, and there is a father figure who's fulfilling this like paternalistic, like, I'll tell you that everything's gonna be okay, I'm gonna take care of you, but I'll also
don't worry about it, kitten.
Yeah, but I'll also penetrate you. You know what I mean? And I don't relate to that just because I didn't like grow up really with my dad, so like I don't have and I'm not trying to say that everybody who did grow up with their dad like has these daddy issues, but anyway, I guess that people like that. They want to be both cared for and sexually satiated.
I mean, that sounds great to me.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm not a man, but that sounds fucking...
I know.
I love that,
I know. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good life to me.
I know. And I think that, like, what men, at least in New York, who don't get married are missing out on is, like, having a wife is, like... That's a top-tier experience.
It's free labor.
It's free labor. And the amount of skills that are being drawn on, do you know what I mean? Look, everybody's different, right? But let's just do a generic. Like, you've got cooking, you've got cleaning, so you've got private chef, housekeeper, stylist, kind of like emotional coach. You know what I mean? To be like, babe, you can do it. I believe in you. Kind of like somebody like a personal assistant who's going to help you with your weekly planning. You know what I mean? Like the amount of paid positions that you're getting for free with a wife can be astounding.
Yeah, it's true. And I think there's sort of this, at least, when I grew up, I sort of had the assumption that like, and I have a very, as egalitarian a marriage as it can be, under the circumstances. Like, my husband is great. He's incredibly supportive. But I sort of had this idea that, like, marriage was about equality, like equal share of labor, equal share of, emotional labor. Everybody does the same amount of work. And it just doesn't work like that, like in any dynamic, I think.
I guess I think more of marriage... And I realize there's something rich about like a double divorcee talking about like what they think is functional with marriage. But like I think of it as more a division of labor as opposed to like an equality of labor.
Yeah, and that division sort of changes, like the line changes at different times, I think, in the marriage. But I will say, just the way society is structured, it definitely skews more toward the wife assuming the lion's share of the work, like most of the time.
Yeah, I think this is the problem with like men having email jobs is like, and I talk about this all the time, but like it used to be that like men did an equal amount of, if it's not in the household labor, it would be like exterior household labor in terms of like hunting, protection, fence building. Do you know what I mean? Like I really do believe, and do I have anything to back this up? No, but I feel like it's true that like just to survive, there was always a division of labor, and women did not necessarily do more than men. They just did stuff in the house. And like now all the out of the house stuff, at least for like middle class people in cities, like the men don't have to do it anymore. So all that's left is all this like in the house labor, which used to be just half of a whole and now is like everything. And it's not fair. But I love cooking. If left to my druthers, I would spend all of my time cooking, cleaning, and organizing my house. Yes.
Oh, I'm the total opposite.
Yeah.
I'm the laziest person alive. Like, I love, I mean, if I had my druthers, I would just, like, frankly, I would just be in a coma for, like, 12 hours a day and then, like, wake up and hang with my kids and my husband and then just, like, look on my phone and go back into my coma.
But see, I think that that's what, like, freedom and democracy is about, is, like, everybody gets to strive for the life that they want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, like, God bless. I think I have a lot of chi. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have a lot of energy. I don't think it's like, it's not, I don't consider it a function of virtue. I think it's a function of, like, always needing to be.
Neuroses, yeah.
I don't know if I would call it, I don't know if I would call it neuroses. I don't like, and have you ever been to an Ayurvedic practitioner?
No.
Okay. Well, I have, and I found them helpful. They talk about, like, there's certain, whatever, we don't have to get into it. But basically, like, for me, sitting still is actually more disturbing. Mm-hmm. Like, and I even meditate every day, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Nobody cares. But, like, to be, because I just want to, it's like what the Buddha said, like, chop wood, carry water. Do you know what I mean? I guess I find freedom. Like, the most satisfying job I ever had was being a waitress. And
really?
Like, yeah. Like, consistently satisfying.
Because you're on your feet and...
Because you're in a flow state. Mm-hmm. Like, it was the restaurant that I was in, you could achieve a flow state. You know, I could work like was it physically punishing? Yes. But like a 16-hour double shift. And I could just, like, be whatever surfers talk about, which, like, I don't relate to surfing in any way. But, like, being one with the wave. Mm-hmm. Like, I experienced that when I was a waitress.
Have you seen Soul?
No. Wait, is that a kids
Pixar movie? Yeah.
No. Okay.
They talk about that, the flow state.
Yeah. Which is like, Soul. I want to be free of thought. I want to, like, cut out the thinking machine.
Yeah. I mean, that's my goal, ultimately.
Yeah.
Is to be free of thought. Like,
but you find it more in a coma. You find it more through coma than endless activity.
That's just my dream, you know. Yeah. Like, my husband every Mother's Day, every birthday is like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, honestly, like, I would just like to be in a sensory deprivation cell for a while.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what I want. Is just total quiet and, like, sleep and to be left alone for, like, 14 to 72.
And have you ever been in one of those tanks?
No, I think actually it would probably scare me.
I know, it sounds terrifying.
Have you been in one?
No, I'm like pretty skeptical of all technology. So particularly one that would fully envelop me in some kind of what I assume to be locked chamber, I would be very suspicious of.
Yeah, it doesn't, the way that you're saying it doesn't sound good. No, actually, but I don't know. I mean, or like being in, I mean, we joke about, like, being hit by a car and, like... and, like, having, like, a minor injury, you know, like, not a major injury, but enough to be, like, laid up in the hospital for, like, 3 days. Like, that's the dream.
Well, I have this photo of me in the hospital. Like, it's just of my feet because I was alone. And I had to go to the hospital. This is when I had 2 very young children. And it felt like a vacation.
Yeah, 100%.
I was thrilled to be in the emergency room. I think I thought I had monkeypox because I had just shot. I think it was Succession, right when the monkeypox thing, and I, like, woke up covered in this rash, and I was like, whatever. And of course, because I lived in a small town in the middle of nowhere, they were like, yeah, maybe you do. They were like, you should come in.
Did you have it?
No. No, they never, I mean, which is, we can talk about later. My large experience with doctors is they had, like, no idea, and they've never been able to present me any real information about health items. But that's my personal experience. But I got to hang out in that ER room by myself for, like, 5 hours.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it was incredible. And I was like, that's how you know your life is challenging, like, as a parent, a new parent, is, like, that felt like paradise.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was put on bed rest. I read about it in the book, actually, with my second child, and it was really, I mean, it was terrifying. Like, he was, 20 weeks along, and I was worried, that it wasn't going to work out and he was going to die. And I was just, like, sobbing in my bed every single day. But after, like, a couple weeks of that, I was like, I get to watch Are You the One, like, every day and just, like, lie down and keep my baby alive. And my husband was, like, so stressed out, so I feel bad saying this.
Yeah.
But I would be like, I would tell him like, oh, this is so awful. Like, I hate that I can't help you, and I hate that, like, I can't help you with the kid, but I'm just, like, lying there, like, playing Oregon Trail on my phone, like, having the best fucking time.
How many months were you on bed rest?
I guess I was 20 weeks or so when I was put on bed rest, so 20, and 19 weeks.
Wow,
39 weeks.
That is a long time.
It was bad. I was really scared. Like, it was very, very scary. It was one of the scariest experiences of my life. At the same time, the only time in my life that I have been able to lie down for an extended period of time. So I do appreciate that in retrospect.
You're sort of like Hannah Nealman. You just want to take to your bed for the week? Or is that what you're saying?
I guess, but unlike her, like, I wouldn't admit it, like, quietly to a reporter.
Right.
Like, I'm saying it right now.
You would say it loud.
To you.
I'm proud.
And also, I mean, I'm kind of joking. Like, it's, it was a traumatic experience, but, like, I'm also,
Do you think that Hannah Nealman of Ballerina Farms, whom you write about fairly extensively in the Tradwife chapter of your book, do you think she's secretly, desperately unhappy in her situation?
No.
What was that article that came out about her? Was it from The Guardian?
The Sunday Times.
It was the Sunday Times. That was the article, like the profile about her where they went to her farm.
Yeah.
And that's where the information about she took to her bed for a week or whatever came out. So you don't think she's, like, secretly miserable?
No, I thought that was a great piece. I really enjoyed it. I thought it provided a lot of insight into their marriage, and, like, people, I think, correctly saw that, this was far more restrictive of a dynamic than what she presents on social media. But honestly, like, whenever the takeaway of a story is, like, somebody's life is different than it is on social media, I'm like, okay, like, do we not realize that at this point? But I guess we don't. I guess this is, like, a novel thing for people to realize now, because media literacy is just so low. But no, I don't think that she grew up Mormon. She grew up in a religion that told her to marry young and have children and be fruitful and multiply, and that was sort of the end goal for her, and she achieved that, and she's figured out a way to sort of marry that with her ambition, which I think is interesting, and we can talk a little bit more about how she does that. But no, I don't think she's miserable at all. Do you? She chose, like, we have to give her agency,
No, she seems to me, that's a high-powered career woman with, like, soft focus Vaseline lens aesthetics.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just girl boss with a different filter,
Totally. And, like, and I get why it's an aspirational lifestyle, because, like, I don't want to eat kids. I think it's far too many. It's too many kids.
I can say that. Like, objectively, it's too many children.
It's just too many kids. I mean, I think it'd be so I grew up as an only child and a single mother, like, raised by a single mother. So I had the opposite end of experience, where it's just like, it's just quiet. There's no chaos. You know what I mean? And that I'm also not a fan of. So I think the appeal of, like, just total chaos sounds great, but that's too many children to pass through the threshold of one's pelvis. I feel like I just can't. How she does, I mean, I guess I would be more interested in, like, is she on meth? Like, what is she doing to lose the weight that fast? I mean, I assume she's not just some genetic rarity. I mean, maybe she is.
I mean, she's really hot.
She's really hot, but, like, 8 kids not messing up your figure? I mean,
what about
that's
Hilaria? Hilaria Baldwin, like, she also famously.
I just have a hard time believing these people aren't on diet pills,
Yeah, and it's obviously, like, really. I mean, I remember being postpartum and being, like, 40 pounds overweight, and just feeling so profoundly unattractive, and, like, looking at her Instagram feed and being like, this cannot possibly be real. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, if nobody's faces in Hollywood are real, why wouldn't, I mean, this is like the entertainment, they're in the entertainment industry. I mean, I guess it's the influencer. I mean, influencer is a close cousin to entertainment industry. Like, why wouldn't they be availing themselves of the same tools that people in Hollywood would?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but it's like, I don't know, we were talking earlier about, like, how the takeaway that social media isn't real life, like, shouldn't be surprising to anyone.
Yeah.
But, like, it still has such sway over us. Like, those images of Hilaria Baldwin after having Carmen, like, posing in front of the mirror in underwear, like, 2 weeks after giving birth, and she looks like Adriana Lima, like, that haunted me.
Well, she probably got I'll say the contrary. She probably got a surrogate. Like, that's not possible. As somebody,
Girl, I'm on the Reddit too. I'm on the subreddit too. I've seen.
There's like no way. I mean, as somebody who's given birth to 2 children personally, I can tell you, and who has, I would say, pretty good genetics, I can tell you that's not what's happening. I don't even think if I starved myself and took in nary 1 calorie, that would happen to my body. You know, because I remember my first kid, I couldn't walk for a month after my first daughter was born because of the labor and stuff. And it's like, so I guess I was being fed some food, but I was not like, it's just not real. So if you're out there and you look at these, it's not possible. I just want to say that. Maybe there's a 1 in a million genetic anomaly, but there can't be 2 of them both popular at the same time. It's just not possible, statistically speaking. They're doing something.
It's difficult, I think. But at the same time, like, I have friends who are like, I will see 2 weeks after giving birth and they're like insanely hot. And I'm like, how the fuck did you manage
Really?
that? Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, again, rare. And this was not my experience. I am not an attractive pregnant woman or a postpartum.
Yeah. No.
I think I'm like okay generally, but like, you know, a postpartum pregnant, when people are like, you're glowing, I was like, you're lying to my face, but thank you.
No, I was a miserable pregnant person.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of pregnancy. I love infants, and I just want to have lots and lots of infants, like babies, but I did not enjoy being pregnant.
Yeah.
It was miserable.
It's not fun.
Yeah. Some people have a great experience. Okay, so you think it is possible. Wow.
Well, I've just seen it.
You've seen it.
I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, hot, beat people being hot 2 weeks after giving birth. Like, people I know who aren't taking meth or Ozempic.
Wow.
Or who I can reasonably assume aren't taking meth or Ozempic. Will show up at the bar.
Are they micro?
Like, you gave birth? I don't know.
Wow.
So I do think there is some variation.
Okay.
But.
Well, I think it's also, I mean, I wasn't in New York. I haven't seen that many. I mean, everybody that I know doesn't have kids in New York. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like a unicorn to find somebody who has children.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't live in Brooklyn, so maybe that's part of it too. Do you live in Brooklyn?
I do live in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I would say, so I had my first kid when I was 26, which was like a child bride in New York.
That's so cool. I wish I had started younger.
You are the first person to ever say that to me.
Oh my God, no. The party line here is that have kids as young as you can, so you have energy for them. I wish I had started at 26. Also would have helped with my self-obsession problem.
Yeah, I have mixed. I mean, it definitely did help with my self-obsession problem.
Yeah, 100%.
I will say that. I have mixed feelings about it. There were good things and there were bad things about it. But I did not know anyone who had children until like 2 years ago when all of my friends, I am 36, just like started popping them out one after the other.
Yeah.
It was like everybody had, it was like the pregnancy pact. You know that Lifetime movie?
No.
About, the high schoolers who decide to get pregnant at the same time. It was like that, but in Brooklyn with like
in Brooklyn. I know I don't go there, so I don't really know about that.
That's fine. You're not missing anything.
I'm that's how I feel. I know, which is snobby. Yeah, everybody in Manhattan, nobody in Manhattan has children, or they just leave. I have friends in the Bay who have kids. I have friends in the Bay who have kids. But like, I haven't seen a pregnant person in New York. I can't even tell you the last time I saw somebody who was pregnant. Do you know what I mean?
They also go to Tribeca.
Right.
In Manhattan, at least.
They go to Tribeca. Yeah, I haven't seen like a civilian pregnant woman in walking the streets. I can't even tell you when. Yeah, I mean, I am sort of a pronatalist simply from the perspective of like, who's gonna take care of us when we're older if there are no people? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not concerned about that.
Why? Why does population cratering not concern you?
Okay. Well, first of all, I've done like, I just want to say, I want to preface this by saying like, I've done maybe 2 stories about this, so I'm not an expert on like.
That's more of an expert than me,
or
baby.
Decrease. I mean, from what I can recall on the reporting that I have done on this, on population growth specifically, like when I called up a bunch of demographers and I was like, hey, is this a problem? They're like, no.
Oh, why did they say it's not a problem?
Because they were like, I'm trying to remember. They were like, first of all, the evidence hasn't cratered significantly enough yet for it to be concerning.
Okay.
And also, like, they had some, economic explanation.
So being under replacement level, like, but South Korea is going to be in big trouble.
Or Japan, I think. I think
South Korea is the worst.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. I think I'm throwing out a number that's probably wrong. I think they're at, like, replacement level, like, 1.7.
But, like, do you not understand why people don't want to have, like, that's the
No,
thing.
I 100% understand. And I guess we were talking a little bit before about the general online discourse around, like not having kids, and I feel like there's this conflation between I think there are societal reasons that having kids is deeply unattractive, such as like no support, right, through like childcare or family units,
exactly,
or like,
yeah.
But I think that often gets conflated with just like having kids in and of itself is bad, which I think is so wrong. Also evolutionarily makes totally no sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously there's going to be an evolutionary incentive for having children to be emotionally rewarding. I know people feel, somebody was telling me, what were they saying recently, that I personally believe, like, if you look at weeds or I don't know, whatever, if you look at like a barren island where then like some kind of vegetation is introduced, like life is clearly voracious. Do you know what I mean? It spreads, it's infectious. Do you know what I mean? Like life just wants to spread everywhere. So from that perspective, I'm like, it to me seems like makes sense that we want to procreate, and it's therefore needs to be an attractive experience emotionally. And so I think it is.
But it's not an attractive experience in this country. That's just the reality of it. It's not.
Well, I think that speaks to, some guy on the internet was talking about how, like, do you know how much you have to abuse a mammal to get them to a point that they don't want to procreate anymore? Which I was like, that as a framing was kind of amazing. And I would say that I think we must be that abused if it's become this unattractive, because I do feel like there is like a deep innate desire for children in most people. I'm not going to say 100% across the board, and I think it's and I would just ask that people like tease out the difference between living in a society which makes rearing children so incredibly difficult versus like the actual the actual act of having children.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have this whole theory about this. Are you familiar with like the babies versus dogs discourse?
I cannot engage with the people who say things to me like, I know it's different, but as a dog mom,
yeah, I can't.
My experience, I'm like, is your brain broke? There is no similarity between having a dog and raising a child. This is gonna get me canceled. Having a pet is sort of like having a slave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is gonna get you canceled.
Like it is a being. It is a being that's in your house against, like, they have given no consent. They are trapped, right? You like feed them and clothe them and keep them, use them as an emotional crutch, right? But like they have no agency in the arrangement. Yes, that stuff about how animal species became like pets and domestic animals, like when they were kind of on the brink of their own extinction. So yes, I guess in a species overview, it is operative for dogs to be our pets. You know what I mean? But I just like the idea that there is some kind of crossover between owning a pet and having a child is to me completely deranged.
Yeah, I have both. And the only crossover is that I love them both. Mm-hmm. That's literally the only crossover. Mm-hmm. But if you were to say, like, is the experience of owning a dog tantamount to raising a child, I would be like, that's psychotic, But anyway, the whole babies versus dogs discourse, or actually, I guess a better analog would be the kids on airplanes discourse.
Okay, what's up?
So basically, every once in a while, there'll be like a tweet or a TikTok where somebody will be filming on a plane and telling a story about how, like, this mom came up to me with 3 kids and she wasn't seated next to her kids and she said, "Can I switch with you so I can sit next to my kids?" And I said no, because I paid for this seat. And it drives me absolutely insane because people find these videos go crazy viral, right? Because people are either like, fuck you, bitch, or, you know, you selfish bitch, or most of the time, actually more recently, which I think says a lot about the climate that we're living in, they're like, oh, hell yeah, like, she should have, you know, taken responsibility for herself and, like, booked her seats together. Like, you have no responsibility towards other people's children. And I think it's really symbolic of the fact that, like, we are living in a time having, caring about children and caring about the welfare of children is, you cannot be self-focused, you know? Like, you cannot be entirely self-centered just by virtue of how much they demand and how much time and energy they demand. Like, you have to you have to sort of give yourself over to them. And I think that we are so focused on ourselves and so focused on our own self-interest and so focused on, like, our own self-branding that we just do not care about the collective at all. And children are kind of like the ultimate representation of collective care.
Do these people forget that they too were once children?
I think that they are just so... I really do think that we are living in an era where people are so self-involved and don't want to live in a society where they care for others or are asked to care for others, that this is sort of like the apotheosis. I see the kids on airplanes discourse as like the apotheosis of that. Like, to me, it's evident, like, morally, of course you would want to give your seat to a mother of 3 kids. Like, because what difference does it make to you?
Also, you know? I have been separated through the booking systems of an airplane from my children on an airplane, not by my own, not because I was, like, lazy and didn't book the tickets, but because sometimes they spontaneously move you. And, like, what am I...
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've gotten in a lot of fights with people on the internet over this, and I've made this point.
Yeah,
many,
okay.
many
But it's so
times.
painfully obvious. I mean, to me, it's like just emblematic of the complete breakdown of, like, Judeo-Christian values in our society. That's what I would say. Do you know what I mean? This idea of, like, yes, and actually this also sort of goes into this idea of, like, over and over again in the discourse online around having kids is this, like, idea of ambition, that, like, we all have a right to pursue our ambition. And I guess I don't understand when ambition became a virtue, you know? And it's, like, taken just as gospel that being ambitious is virtuous. And I'm like, that equation doesn't make sense to me. Whereas, like, to me, like, yeah, putting others' needs ahead of oneself, I think most people would say is virtuous, right?
I don't think they would say that. Maybe they would if you asked them straight up, but not when pressed, not in execution. I think the rise of therapy speak has also been pretty indicative of that as well.
I'm super anti-therapy.
I mean, I love therapy. I'm obsessed with therapy. Like, I'm very grateful to my therapist. I do try to make her laugh probably more than I should. Like, I want her to like me or find me interesting more than, like, I want her to, like,
she's just another person. She's not a god. She's not a priest. I think that's what people forget about therapists. Like, and you probably want to make most people laugh, right? So it's totally fitting that you would want to make her laugh as well.
Well, I just want her to think that I'm more interesting than her other clients. You know?
Totally.
Like, that's what I'm thinking in the back of my head. Like, how do I tell her about this problem that I'm having in a way that makes her think that I am better and more interesting than her other clients.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is kind of dark, but I sort of feel like in some ways therapy is a little bit like emotional prostitution. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, and, like, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with sex. Do I think there's anything? I think that probably if you're doing sex work, you might get into more dangerous situations. So I guess that's what I think.
It's riskier. It depends what kind. But
yeah.
I'm very, very. I spent the entire first half of my career. That was my beat.
Oh, okay.
Sex. So I'm very, very, very pro sex work.
Okay.
But yeah,
but it does seem dangerous. So I guess I'm not opposed to it necessarily from a moral perspective. I guess that's what I'll say. I think probably it's really destructive for some people who are engaged with it, would be my guess, but I don't know. But with therapy, yeah, there is something, the exchange I'm always so skeptical of. And I think that you're right about, like, that of, like, you know what, the focus should be on me. What am I getting out of this situation?
Exactly.
You know, and it's like, unfortunately, that's not how we got this far in history, we are deeply, I mean, isn't that why we succeeded as a species? Because we're like deeply communal and deeply socially connected in a way that other species aren't. I mean, I don't know about the Neanderthals or anything, but like that's what made us rise, you know? And most people are into like buildings and electricity. I'm not necessarily one of them, but like that's what got us all these successes. So then this like breakdown is so irrational.
And it is a breakdown. Like I see it happening in real time. Like just sort of the idea with the rise of therapy speak that like you don't owe anybody your time. Like if you have a relationship and it's proving toxic or it's weighing on you, like feel free to ghost them. Like draw boundaries. Just like break up with your longtime friends and partners like you are in the head of an HR department.
Totally.
And I'm just like that is just so indicative of how non-empathetic we are and how the erosion of empathy is seen as virtuous in our culture now. Like you do owe other people who you care about things. We owe people things.
Yeah.
We owe each other explanations for our behavior, and we owe each other conversation. Like, and I just think it's so toxic and dangerous for us to think that, like, try to convince ourselves that, like, you don't know, the whole idea, like, you don't know anybody your time, you don't know anybody your energy. Yes, we do. You do. That is part of being a human being in the world.
You know what's interesting? Because it's sort of like this.
And it connects to your thing about kids, too. Like, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, you grew up to, you in general, people who are alive now clearly made it through childhood, you know, and people gave you their time so that you might be alive today. You know, there's like, that's why also like the hatred, the like casual hatred towards children all the time. I'm like, I always want to ask people, like, would you prefer if you had not been born? Is that what because like you are here as a function of somebody was willing to make the sacrifice to raise you.
Yeah.
And it was not minor. And you don't seem to be a great example, you know, of all that love and care, you know, with your casual, nasty attitude, you know? But what this also makes me think about is like on the right, they're always talking about how like there's too much empathy. They mean it more around like immigration or something.
Or, you know, LGBTQ rights.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's sort of like, it's like the horseshoe is like, it really does meet in the middle. Like there's the left therapy speak version of no empathy. Like, and then it kind of is going to eventually approximate like the right. Like, why should we help illegals? You know what I mean? It's really all the same framework.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually working on a piece about exactly that.
Really?
Like, yeah, about how the erosion of empathy it was sort of pegged to this idea that's popularized by this podcaster, Allie Beth Stuckey.
Who is she?
She is an evangelical, right-wing Christian podcaster.
Okay.
And she is sort of the one, she didn't spearhead like the anti-empathy movement. Like there is research to suggest, like there are researchers who believe that like there are things about empathy that can be negative, you know, for people. But so she's not the first one to say that, but she's the one who sort of spearheaded like the left is suffering from too much empathy.
Right.
You know, after the killing of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And so the piece that I was working on was about, and the take that I haven't really seen, is that I think that erosion of empathy, like, yes, is very prevalent on the right, but I also think it's a leftist thing too, like 100%.
Well, I would say like the Glee, I can't keep talking about it. It's bipartisan.
Yeah.
The Glee, I mean, maybe just aided by the internet, the Glee with which people say incredibly nasty things on both sides of the political spectrum, I find to be shocking. I've mentioned this and I should stop talking about it, but I like recently got into a fight with a bunch of tankies online.
What are tankies?
They're like people who think Stalin was really great. They're so, if you're listening, they're so negligible. But I like got into this protracted fight with them. But just like, I don't know, somebody, I mean, this happens all the time, like both from America. I like got in a fight with some America First people too, right after the Venezuela thing, which is just, to me, an indication that maybe I just shouldn't argue with people online. But like the quickness with which it descended to like calling me a gash and like which I just find that term is so nasty.
It's so gross.
It's so nasty.
Do you like it better than Foid?
What?
Foid?
I've never been called that before. F-O-I-D? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would prefer, gash is too, it's too you know,
It's evocative.
it is
I'll give
it's
them that.
definitely evocative. That's right. It kind of hits. I just feel like there's a gleefulness, and I sort of think that that's what wokeism called on, was this like the gleeful joy in cutting down and shaming others.
Look, yeah, I mean, look, I'm like, as we were saying before, like I am I consider myself pretty progressive.
Yeah.
You know, like I bet we disagree on a lot of things. I do agree with you on that. You know, like I think it's complicated. You know, I think there are good things about the fact that we have an accountability culture, very good things about it, and I think there are bad things about it, because obviously it enables people who don't have any empathy.
But
you know,
do we live, I mean, you've been on the Epstein beat recently, like do we have an accountability culture? Because it would seem to me that, like, yes, calling out some random person with like 300 or 400 followers to be accountable for something is, but like Epstein's not accountable. Bill Gates isn't accountable. Like, I just think it's all a ruse. I think it's a cover.
We have an accountability culture for people who have no power or limited power. You know, like we don't have an accountability culture for people like Elon or people with no shame. I mean, honestly, like the lack of shame is an even more powerful currency than money right now.
I know. I sort of feel like I'm like, oh, I don't have a lot of shame. I'm like, is that the best quality I could possibly have?
Absolutely. In this
environment?
Yeah, of course.
I know, like a martyr complex plus a lack of shame is like a golden ticket these days, which is like, I think that's what Trump has, right? Like, he's so woe-begone, he's so put upon, but it's like, what, bro? You're like a rich kid. I mean, he's from Queens, which is hard. You know what I mean? But like, the way his ability to feel victimized to me is like incredible.
Do you think he does?
Yes.
You don't think it's just rhetoric?
No, I think he 100%. I think he's all it. It's all real for him. I mean, does he really care about Iran? I don't think he cares about Iran. Do you know what I mean? But like that stuff, yeah. I mean, that's why it's so potent. That's why people love him, because he's just like unfiltered emotion, leaking out everywhere. You know.
Going back to the empathy thing, actually, one of the researchers that I talked to who kind of spearheaded the anti-empathy movement, or he wrote a book about how empathy could be dangerous. That was one of the examples he cited. Is that he was like, I was inspired to write this book because I saw Donald Trump weaponizing the negative side of empathy in his political campaign in like a really interesting way. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, because you don't really think of Trump and empathy as going together. And it was exactly for the reason that you articulated. Like, he sees himself as a martyr. He sees himself as a victim, and that enables other people to see themselves as victims and martyrs, and to sort of like empathize with him. And that was kind of the point he was making, is that people like Trump can use empathy can weaponize empathy in that way.
I don't know if I would call that. I mean, I don't really love whenever somebody says to me, like, uses that word in daily conversation, I'm always like,
what word?
Empathy. I'm always like minor eye roll. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they just like why?
Yeah, it's so important, I think.
I guess because the way it's utilized to me is like so microaggression workshop or something. Like, the idea itself might have value, but the way that it's been utilized culturally, I find pretty tiresome. But I would say that like people who admire Trump, I wouldn't say that they empathize with him. I would say I do not believe Trump is a victim. Did everybody think he was a joke in New York in the 80s and 90s? Yes. Does that make you a victim? I don't think so. But like, he is able to give voice to true, even though it makes no sense in him, I think he like gives voice to people who are true victims, who have been left behind by our economic structures. And so he's just like presenting, he
taps into that.
But like, I wouldn't call that, I don't think that that's empathy. That's just like mass. I mean, I think Trump is, I also don't believe that like narcissism is really real. You know, everybody's just like, anytime anybody breaks up with their boyfriend, people will be like, oh, he was such a narcissist. I'm just like,
aren't you an actor? Don't you know a lot of actors? You don't think narcissism is real?
I don't think narcissism is real. I mean, no, I don't think so. I do think Donald Trump. I would say, I do think Donald Trump is a narcissist.
I think it's interesting. I would say, a lot of people, we were talking about this before, that I've started to see for the reviews of the book, like conservatives are spamming the Goodreads and the Amazon, being like, this person that like seems so angry. This person like is a Brooklyn left-wing feminist, like seems so angry. But I don't consider this like an angry book. I consider this book honestly an exercise in empathy. Like, yeah,
that's an insane takeaway. That's their takeaway. So we're gonna take a short break. To hear the other half of this, please go to patreon.com/criticalbabetheory. This is EJ Dickson. This is her book, One Bad Mother, because I think there's a lot more to say about that. Okay, so we'll be right back.